What is inflammation in your body and why should you care? Well, it's actually a big deal, and that's coming up next on Thin, Strong, Healthy. Understanding inflammation and the effect it can have on your mind and your body are key in maintaining your health, both mental and physical. This has become so much clearer to me personally as recent research is showing depression, from which I suffered for decades, is connected to the level of inflammation in your body. I say I disappeared my own depression. I don't say I cured it because I'm not a doctor. But I disappeared my own depression by changing what I eat, although I admit I didn't know what I got off my plate that made the difference in the beginning. Over the years, people have asked me if it was sugar or gluten or something else that made the difference. And honestly, I didn't know until recently. And so I was afraid to go off the healthy eating bandwagon. Today, we're going to talk about inflammation so you too can gain the understanding it took years for me to connect the dots on. The potential is there for you to enjoy relief from a myriad of symptoms and ills just by reducing the inflammation in your body and in your mind. And by the way, it's not just about food, but more about that later. First of all, not all inflammation is bad for you. Now that may sound strange, but in fact, one kind of inflammation can save your life, while the other can slowly kill you. Let's start with some facts about inflammation. Inflammation is a defense mechanism in the body. Our immune system begins the healing process when it recognizes bacteria, injury, or irritants. We need inflammation. It saves our lives, but it can also slowly kill us when it gets out of control. There are two kinds of inflammation. First, there's acute inflammation, and that's actually good for you. In fact, it's necessary for the healing process. When you get an injury or an infection, blood flow increases to the damaged area and special cells start removing irritants and damaged cells. And that's why it feels hot. That's why we get swelling when we have some kind of an injury like that. On the other hand, inflammation can undermine your health when it fails to shut off. And then it becomes what is called chronic inflammation. Even though the symptoms may be invisible, chronic inflammation appears to play a role in heart disease, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's disease, depression. It also contributes to premature aging. All diseases appear to have inflammation as a common factor. Lifestyle choices like diet, exercise, and even dental health may influence inflammation in our bodies. It has actually been found to be an underlying cause in many serious diseases. But what are the effects on the body? Picture what happens when you get a cut or a sprained ankle. There's heat and there's redness, there's swelling. Now that's inflammation. That's acute inflammation, and that's necessary to ward off infection and to heal the affected area. Now picture this heat and redness not turning off, but switching to a slow simmer in your body. Not turning off, never turning off. These low levels of inflammation can be triggered even if there's no injury. But why would that happen? Why doesn't the immune system shut off? And what happens if the inflammation effect can't shut itself off and just continues? Well, the answer is that your arteries and your organs can't take the constant state of inflammation, and they begin to break down. Scientists believe this is what leads to diseases I mentioned earlier, like cancer, diabetes, arthritis, obesity, and yes, even depression. Scientists do know that diseases like lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, they develop when the immune system stops functioning correctly and it actually attacks healthy tissue. Now, carrying around extra weight, let's talk about that. That and lack of exercise can also contribute to the development of chronic diseases. Remember that 35% of Americans are now considered obese. Low-level immune responses can actually be triggered by carrying around too much weight and by being too sedentary. People who are overweight and sedentary are actually at a greater risk for diabetes, heart disease, and cancer, among other maladies. Researchers now know that fat cells trigger what can be described as the release of a slow, steady hum of cytokines. So what's a cytokine? Well, a cytokine is any of a number of substances like interferon, interleukin, growth factors that are secreted by certain cells of the immune system and that have an effect on other cells. If there's no invader to attack, these cytokines go beyond what they're supposed to do and they actually attack healthy organs, nerves, and tissues in our bodies. The more weight we gain, the more this happens, which puts us at tremendous risk for developing type 2 diabetes as it interferes with our body's ability to correctly use insulin. By the way, when I was writing this part of the show, I got to thinking about how sedentary I had been. I actually took a break and I went for a walk. It was a quick walk, it wasn't a long walk, but I got moving. So what about drugs to manage chronic inflammation? Well, I read in the Johns Hopkins Health Review that, quote, finding a drug that both interrupts the immune cycle and maintains a healthy immune response is important not just for people battling illness, but for all of us as we age. They continued, currently, there are no prescription drugs that specifically target chronic inflammation. There are, of course, over-the-counter medications that treat the minor and temporary inflammation and accompanying pain caused by injuries or procedures such as surgery. These are not meant to treat chronic inflammation. Some drugs, such as hydrochloroquine, once used to battle malaria, are useful in treating some lupus patients, but they don't cure the disease. Aspirin and statins have shown promise in reducing inflammation in some people, but researchers aren't sure how broadly useful such drugs are in that role. Now, I'm going to pause the quote right there because I want to share with you some information about a couple of people that I have been in contact with this whole process of learning about inflammation and teaching it. I have a friend who actually does not have a cholesterol issue. His doctor put him on a statin because he told him that it calms the cardiovascular system. Well, given the side effects that my other friend experienced while taking statins, I wonder about the balance between calming and anti-inflammatory and the side effects of statins, which can be things like it can push you to diabetes too, it can cause you to have brain fog, muscle weakness, nerve pain, all kinds of things. Brain fog, did I mention brain fog? All kinds of ills, all kinds of side effects with the statins. So I'm going to go back to reading to you from Johns Hopkins. With the exception of far from perfect anti-inflammatory drugs such as prednisone, a corticosteroid that brings with it a slew of side effects, just like statins, scientists are still researching how to best contain inflammation. We need something that can work broadly and quickly and without a lot of side effects, end quote. So that raises the question, why not just take over-the-counter anti-inflammatories to keep our inflammation tamped down? Why not take aspirin on a regular basis? Why not take ibuprofen on a regular basis? I know this may sound like a simple solution until you realize what happens when you do take over-the-counter anti-inflammatories like aspirin and ibuprofen on a regular basis. It's ironic that it's been discovered that NSAIDs, or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, actually can cause what they're designed to help: inflammation. Now, the way that works is the lining of the gut wall is designed to be selectively permeable. But when anti-inflammatory drugs are taken too frequently, they can actually cause the lining of the gut wall to become permeable, leaking the contents of the digestive system into the rest of the body and triggering an immune response, leading to inflammation in the body. So this brings us to a discussion of leaky gut. And you know, I tell people it's all connected, and you can see how one thing affects another. So let's talk about leaky gut. That can actually increase gluten sensitivity, which, as we know, is on the rise, and which on its own can cause permeability or leaking of the intestinal or bowel lining as well. So one of my favorite gurus, functional gurus, is Dr. David Perlmutter, and he says it so clearly. So I'm going to give you a quote from Dr. Perlmutter. Basically, in the healthy condition, the gut lining is selectively permeable as well as selectively impermeable. And that's two various bacterial components, proteins, and other gut-related particles. When the integrity of gut lining is challenged, these entities gain access through the gut wall and stimulate immune reactions that activate the production of inflammatory chemicals, end quote. So if you find you're getting sick more often, you have irritable bowel issues and or issues with digestion, you may in fact be experiencing leaky gut and the development of chronic inflammation. IBS, or irritable bowel syndrome, is often one of the first signs of leaky gut. You may be diagnosed with diverticulitis or Crohn's disease. Reducing inflammation in your body is key to getting this under control. With leaky gut, you may experience diarrhea, constipation, increased food sensitivity. For example, every time you have pizza, it destroys you. You get a stomach ache, or you need to find a bathroom really, really fast. Now, malabsorption of your food and supplements is another result of leaky gut. So you may be getting your nutrition in, but along with toxins leaking out through your intestinal wall, the food and the supplements your body should be absorbing to keep you healthy and nourish you, they're leaking out. You're not getting the benefit of them. So now I'd like to turn to a discussion of what you're exposed to externally that contributes to inflammation. Environmental and topical toxins, as well as the types of foods eaten, factor into the escalating epidemic of chronic diseases. Did you know your skin is your largest organ? It is. What comes in contact with your skin can make or break you. I'm talking about so many things. I'm talking about creams and soaps, shampoos, nail polish, laundry detergents, cleaning products in your home, and so on. You know, you can immediately begin to change your environment today, and that's what we're going to talk about. It's painless, and it doesn't involve changing your diet. And quite honestly, I find that this is a really good way to help people get started down a path of living with less inflammation. There's something about our diet, something about changing our food that's very personal, that we really hold on to and we're bonded with. And it's easier to say don't use that laundry detergent than it is to say don't eat that food. So I want to get you started on the right path, and I want to do it painlessly and simply. So the first thing to do is check the ingredient labels on the products you're currently using. But what do you look for? Well, I want to start with 3 ingredients you can target to pinpoint what you may currently be using that might be contributing to chronic inflammation. Now, the first thing to do is to check the ingredients labels on the products you're using now. But what do you look for? I want to start with 3 ingredients you can target today to pinpoint what you may currently be using that might be contributing to chronic inflammation, either existing and thriving or developing. First, check everything you use to clean for the ingredient sodium lauryl sulfate, or SLS. It may be listed either way. That's the ingredient that makes your shampoo foam so beautifully. It's classified by the Environmental Working Group's Skin Deep Cosmetic Safety Database as a moderate hazard, and it's been associated with various ills like cancer, endocrine disruption, organ and neurotoxicity, and skin irritation. By the way, if you're not familiar with the Environmental Working Group, you can check them out at http://ewg.org. They do great work, and they have many helpful lists and resources there for you on their website. I encourage you to take a look. SLS is used in industrial cleaners and in cosmetic products. I don't know about you, but it makes me uncomfortable that something that is used in an industrial cleaner would be in the cosmetics I put on my face. Now, just as sugar has many different names, SLS can be listed as sodium dodecyl, dodecyl sulfate, sulfuric acid, monododecyl ester, sodium salt sulfuric acid, sodium dodecyl sulfate, Aquarex Me, or Aquarex methyl. Now, sodium laureth sulfate, laureth, not laurel, this is laureth sulfate, and that's also known as SLES, and that's reported to be slightly less irritating than SLS and has greater foaming action. There is also ammonium lauryl sulfate, or ALS, which is similar to SLS and poses the same risks. Now, sodium lauryl sulfate sounds benign enough. It's derived from coconuts, but unfortunately it's contaminated during the manufacturing process with the toxic byproduct dioxane. Dioxane is actually suspected of being carcinogenic and may adversely affect our kidneys, our liver, and our central nervous system. And this is according to the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health. So it's imperative. Remember to read your labels and look for products that say they are SLS free. I thought it was really interesting when I was researching the sulfate issue. I came across an article that appeared to be, let's say, extremely kind to sulfates. The article said SLS and SLES are surfactants. Now, this is true. And that all shampoos use some form of surfactant. That sulfate-free shampoos are not surfactant-free shampoos. The surfactants are just being replaced by a surfactant that is not a sulfate. I kept reading. Reading on, the article said that SLS and SLES have excellent safety records, and that, I'm quoting that, quote, excellent safety records. Now, by this time, I was starting to get a little suspicious. The author stated the amount of sulfates in their product were safe to use. I checked the fine print to find out who was behind this information. They didn't disappoint me. I found it was the makers of Head & Shoulders, Procter & Gamble. They're bad. They're bad, and they are one of the worst offenders when it comes to animal testing. Another point I would like to make with this is that they are maintaining their product by itself is not toxic, but they are not taking into consideration how much we are bombarding our bodies with other versions of toxic products. It's important to realize using these products is harmful over time. In fact, this is similar to the tobacco lobby conducting a study and releasing the results that smoking does not cause lung disease, or the sugar lobby releasing a report that sugar doesn't cause weight gain or tooth decay. You have to consider the source. We all have to learn to question and to read labels. Now, next on our hit parade of nasty ingredients are triclosan and triclocarbon. Although the Food and Drug Administration banned triclosan, listen to this, they banned triclosan from hand soaps and body wash in this country back in 2016, it can still be found in many products, including toothpaste, which unbelievably, I couldn't believe this, was not included in the ban. They banned it in other things, but you can still brush your teeth with this toxic substance. Lauded for its antibacterial properties back in the day, get this, current wisdom maintains triclosan is no more effective than simple soap and water. Triclosan weakens the immune system, and exposure of children to antibacterial products at an early age has actually been linked to an increase in asthma, allergies, and eczema. So if you have a young child who's having eczema, allergies, and asthma, it's critical that you get this stuff out of their lives. Save your kids, get this, and save yourself. Get yourself off the bandwagon with these toxic products. Now, you may be thinking there's not enough of any of these ingredients to harm you. One exposure to SLS lasts 4 to 5 hours, topically, after use. But the important thing is to consider for a moment the accumulated damage that using them over a period of many years and with many products can do. It's not that one-time usage, but it's the constant exposure to these ingredients that can cause us great harm. It's the buildup of the toxicity that will get you. So if you say, well, you know, it's in my hand soap, but it's not in my dish soap, it's not in my laundry detergent, that's not going to hurt me. Well, if you go to the office or you're out in the world and you use the restroom and you wash your hands, I guarantee you it's going to be there. And it's going to be in other things that are going to touch your skin during the day. So you may actually want to check out, I have a post on this subject that will help you further understand the benefits of changing to organic cleaning products. And that's on my website at thinstronghealthy.com. Now, changing to a healthier lifestyle is admittedly a process. And I've found that when I coach my clients, it's a more manageable process if they begin with small steps. I strongly suggest you go through your cleaning products and personal products to check them for these 3 toxic cleaning ingredients that we've just discussed. This is a great start to your new goal of a healthier lifestyle. Let's talk about dish soap for a minute. You may think it doesn't matter which dish soap you use. It gets rinsed off down the drain and will not harm you. It's not true. It's not true at all. Hand washing dish soap, not automatic dishwasher detergent, can contain cocamide DEA formaldehyde, sodium borate, sulfuric acid, the aforementioned triclosan SLS and SLES, as well as other ingredients you and I would have to Google to learn how to pronounce. These ingredients encourage cancer, respiratory effects, skin irritation, allergies, irritation of the skin, eyes, or lungs, aquatic toxicity, and so on. It's in your best interest to use a hand-washing dish liquid that is unscented for starters. That's just a good place to begin. I hope these suggestions have made you feel empowered to go and read your labels. So I have homework for you. I have homework. I was a teacher in a past life, and I always like to give people homework when I'm teaching. I want you to check your ingredients list on your personal care and cleaning products, and I want you to replace 1 personal care item and 1 cleaning item this week with a healthier version. You can do this. You can do this. Remember, my mantra is small steps for big changes in your health. Be patient. While anti-inflammatory medications often relieve symptoms immediately, lifestyle choices take longer to yield results. It may take a few days to see the first results and several weeks or months to achieve dramatic progress. The bonus is that there will be no adverse side effects. This is very doable. I want you to email me at Cheryl@thinstronghealthy if you have any questions at all. I love to hear from you. And I want to thank you for spending this time with me. On Thin, Strong, Healthy, this is Cheryl A. Major, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.